Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown. And today we're looking at the latest studio album from Issues, entitled Beautiful Oblivion. This is the third full-length studio album from Atlanta, Georgia metal band Issues, who over the past decade have spent a lot of time and put a lot of resources into their own unique fusion of modern pop songwriting and modern heavy metal performance. Now, Issues is hardly the first band to attempt to bring these two worlds together. I mean, you can go as far back as the late 1980s and listen to the seminal works from Def Leppard and Bon Jovi for a classic example as to what pop metal truly is, as well as more modern artists such as Hailstorm, In This Moment, and the most recent records from Within Temptation, Bring Me the Horizon, Ghost. But in these cases, you're either dealing with a metal record that has pop flourishes, or a pop record that has metal flourishes. You don't really see a full-blown 50-50 straight down the middle split of the two. And that is where Issues come in, because I believe on this third studio album, Beautiful Oblivion, we are seeing the full, total merger of these two sounds. Not a metal band playing with pop hooks and production values, not a pop band adopting guitar solos and riffs, a full-bodied fusion of everything that makes these two genres so distinct and unique in 2019. Now, I understand that that statement for a lot of you is very scary. I mean, metalheads, typically speaking, shall have a lot of disdain and hatred for pop music. But I'm frankly not one of them. In fact, I think pop music in 2019 is a lot more healthy, expansive, vibrant, and provocative than a lot of you are willing to give it credit for. Mainstream commercial artists like Childish Gambino and Janelle Monáe have been pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable within mainstream music for quite a few years now, with the former of which in particular becoming incredibly infamous for his This Is America video, which challenges how we see race and gun violence in America, and the latter of which, Janelle Monáe, through her record Dirty Computer, re-examines what sexuality and patriotism means in a post-Donald Trump world. And with all that in mind, not only did I go into this record pretty open-minded and even excited, but I came out of it kind of falling in love with it. I mean, I wasn't joking when I said that this really is a full fusion of these two distinct worlds. It's elegant, it's smart, it's sexy, it's still dirty, it's still fucking heavy, it's still got big pulsing riffs and grooves that do a lot to embolden all of the hooks. I'm even impressed that while the music does stick to a pretty standard pop music template, they find ways to weave all of these very interesting progressive elements into the sound. There's elements here from classic funk metal from artists like Fishbone and early Red Hot Chili Peppers. There's elements here from more modern prog metal in the vein of Between the Buried and Me and Periphery, within some of the riffs, within some of the instrumentations, with the way it all winds and curves around everything. As far as the pop side of this is concerned, you're seeing a lot of influence from two artists specifically. At its most upbeat and optimistic, it is hearkening to the likes of Bruno Mars, but most of the time it brings to mind the vocal antics and sad boy neo-soul R&B of someone like The Weeknd. And all of these sounds fuse quite naturally, they coexist quite beautifully. It's colorful, it's dynamic, it's incredibly original and even innovative at times. This really does bend genres. Issues has adopted the rules of both metal and pop, but has bended them to their liking without straying too far outside them, without feeling shocking or uninviting or too overwhelming. It still remains incredibly accessible and warm and inviting, and I'm kind of in awe as to how successful this fucking fusion is. The first 4 tracks on here in particular are just fantastic. After hearing every single one of them, I actually hit replay and I started singing along to it. I'm bopping my head. I'm even kind of grooving to the track Find Forever, which adopts this straight up funk metal mentality that I haven't really heard this successfully done since Red Hot Chili Peppers' Mother's Milk record. combined with this incredibly smooth pop soundscape that feels like Bruno Mars but channeled through some of the cheesier aspects of 90s pop. Opening track Here's to You is really strong as well. It's a very moody cut that reminds me a lot of Seven Dust, but again combined with this kind of Weekend and neo-soul R&B aesthetic. I mean, when the melodies and the riffs line up just right, it's actually a pretty cathartic experience, and you end up feeling for this guy a little bit, even though what he's going through as far as the lyrics detail ain't exactly that complicated, but you just kind of feel it in the moment. Tracks like Drink About It and Tapping Out is where we start to hear some of the djenty periphery style influences come into play. Both of these songs laying down thick metalcore riffs with a bit of a proggy flourish. I definitely prefer the former track, Drink About It. I just think it has a way stronger melody, and I think that everything lines up a little bit better. Former track, still very solid. I even like some of the weird modern hip-hop flows in this, but I think it is crippled by a really generic and out-of-place breakdown near the end of the track. The following track, Without You, helps the album recover extremely quickly, channeling a lot of the things that I like about Find Forever into something a little bit more chill, something a little bit more laid back, before eventually evolving into a much more enthusiastic hook with some really sexy, jazzy drum fills and guitar patterns that eventually make way for this really interesting passage that weaves in and out of the melody, almost in the vein of something from Between the Buried and Me. Like if that band ever decided to make a pop song, it might sound a little bit something like this, maybe. I don't know. Now, unfortunately, after Without You, I don't think the album is as consistently good. I mean, we're still dealing with incredibly well-written pop and metal fusion music, but some tracks also start to bleed together as the record does begin to fall victim to the issues that I have with modern pop music. Tracks like Rain, Downfall, and Your Sake just feel really basic and one-dimensional compared to some of the other tracks we've heard so far on this record. The latter track in particular, Your Sake, is an absolute bore, if we're being honest. It is the mandatory ballad that's on every single pop record, and it just accomplishes nothing here. I feel nothing for this song whatsoever. There are still pretty bright moments to be found, such as the incredibly funky Janelle Monáe-inspired track Flexin, as well as the fantastic closing track, Beautiful Oblivion. But I don't think it would be unfair to call this a heavy-handed record, and I'd be lying if on my second listen I didn't skip past some of the songs that we just mentioned. Okay, maybe not Downfall, because Downfall at least has a big, thick groove for me to sink my teeth into, but y'all get the idea. But hey, I'm willing to forgive all of that when you factor in how creative a lot of the tracks are on here, how catchy all the material is on here, how well crafted and unique it is. I really don't think I've heard another band so successfully fuse the worlds of pop and heavy metal before. Mind you, some bands have come close. Ghost arguably did on their last record, Prequel, particularly with its high production value. But that record still laid pretty firmly in the world of metal, in my opinion, and had a very pop-like flourish to it. Whereas this, again, is straight down the middle, 50-50, pure fusion. Like 50% pop, 50% metal, right in the blender, their own unique spices and shit, all that nonsense. So I'm going to go for 4 out of 5, man. I mean, the tracks on here that are great aren't just great, they rank as some of the catchiest and most creative and well-constructed pieces I've heard so far this year. Even the weaker cuts on here are performed with so much energy and passion that I'm still able to get through them. I'm still bopping my head, I'm still enjoying myself. It's the band's most mature record, it's the band's most ambitious and musically inspired record. This is something that fans of Issues are really going to fucking love, particularly if you followed them from the literal beginning till now. I'm not really sure if I can recommend this to your average metalhead, mind you, especially, again, if you're someone who truly does despise pop, but for the sake of fairness, I would say at least give it a listen. I don't expect y'all to like it. I frankly don't care if you do or not, but just for the sake of fairness, attempt to give it a shot. Or at the very least, just shut up and let me enjoy it, because I honestly did fucking enjoy it, and I don't know, I guess that makes me a poser or whatever, because I didn't listen to fucking Norwegian blackened technical death grind or some shitty fucking demo that one of you sent me recorded on a fucking Fisher-Price cassette. Shame on me for wanting to listen to something legitimately creative and well-produced instead of whatever fucking nonsense you found in your basement. What kind of fucking animal am I? 4 to 5, a great record. Don't listen to the metal elitists. Don't listen to people bitching and moaning that pop doesn't belong in metal, because I think Issues really do prove once and for all that these two worlds do belong together. They can coexist, and they can do it without leaning too far into one or the other. Anyone in the future daring to combine these two worlds needs to keep an incredibly close eye on Issues, because at this rate, I can totally picture their next record being an absolute fucking game changer. For now, beautiful Oblivion, 4 to 5, it's fucking great. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.